Welcome to the Printer's Edge with LaManna, a podcast about how to sell, buy, or build a printing business. Now here are your hosts, LaManna and Ken Okel.
You're listening to the Printer's Edge podcast with LaManna, presented by Label and Narrow Web. Hi, I'm Ken Okel. We welcome you to episode 3 of our podcast. And joining me as always, the premier business broker, Mr. LaManna. Rock, so nice to have you here today.
Great to be here, Ken. Thank you.
So we have a few things that we're going to be talking about today, a lot about how you should be approaching attending a conference or an expo, and then later we're going to answer your listener question. This one is especially good if you are a baby boomer. So that is our tease right there that we have. Let's first dive in to this question. You know, throughout the year, they're offering our various printing expos, conferences, showcases where people can attend. Rock, I understand you've been on the circuit a little bit because, hey, you are a member of the media.
Yes, I am. This past month, where there's been at least 3 expos I've traveled to.
At one of these conferences, how do you prepare for the sessions that you're going to attend? What do you do?
Understand the bios, the speakers, the keynote. Why? What is the theme of the expo at that particular time? What new equipment will be there? What new technologies will be there? What new startup companies may be there? The suppliers. What suppliers are showing? Who's sponsoring the show is important. Clients, of course. I contact my clients. I let them know a month before that I'll be there. Please contact me for a one-on-one conversation. Looking over the schedule is very, very important. I just kind of key things out, look at a must, the priorities, because there might be a back-to-back situation. But sometimes they give 1 or 2 the same presentation over 2 or 3 days and so on. So I'm always looking for the opportunity, what's happening, and I really observe the speakers. I really try to find out who the players are, who the good speakers are, and I always connect. It's a situation where I learn from all the speakers. If it's new, young, old, whatever that is, experienced, and so on. And then the trade shows always have some type of event planner with their booth. It's a great place to meet and mingle with people and find out who the players are and so on. And we also always look at the next year. The next year is something where I always mention, you know, what's happening, who's going to be there, what are the renewals, who's renewing, who's not. Next year, the GOA is going to be in Fort Lauderdale. That was a huge announcement.
So from Miami to Fort Lauderdale?
Yes, after many, many years. And that's because of construction issues.
And a few suggestions I would have for attendees, because I go to a lot of conferences myself, whether I'm attending it as a person or I'm a presenter. When I'm looking at the list of all the sessions, sometimes there'll be some concurrent sessions, 2 at the exact same time. Both look really good. I don't know the presenters at all. So what I'll do ahead of time is I'll go to those people's websites and I'll see how the sites look, what information do they have YouTube videos of previous talks. Because sometimes someone can write a really good session description, but they're not really much of an expert. Also, I've learned if you do go to that session and it's not that good, it's okay to bail. Go to the one that you like. Really, you have to maximize your time as a resource at these events because you can't see everything. And if you have that really good plan for, hey, at this conference, I am going to learn about this. My goal is to leave knowing this new thing about the printing industry, it can make you that much better.
I'm going to give you a couple examples as we transition out of the GOA. First time speaker was Skip Grant. He spoke on 100 ways to make money with wide format. Very interesting. A lot of samples, a lot of capabilities that he showed technically how they were manufactured and so on. I thought that was very intriguing. Mergers and Acquisitions, Growth Strategy and Dreams was presented for the first time in a long time by Paul Riley. Did a very nice job on what's happening in the commercial aspect of it, but at least people got to understand, the audience got to understand where the market was going. Here's another one, how the internet is changing the way sales people prospect was very interesting because that's what I'm doing. Everything technology-wise, hunting and fishing and trying to really target your client base, a new client base. Everyone's looking for new clients. Mega trends affecting the printing industry was another one. What's your overall effectiveness? These are some of the things in leadership, technically, operations, there's lean. These seminars are fantastic because there's something for everyone, and that's how they're set up. So I just wanted to comment on the Graphics of America, how well that was, and hopefully I'll see you there next year.
Rock, you and I recently teamed up, and we went to an event that was put on by Entrepreneur Magazine. It was called Accelerate Your Business. It was held in the Miami area. And I think this was a very interesting event. While it was not aimed at the printing industry per se, it was aimed at people who were in business. A lot of good takeaways that we had.
They were fantastic. I was very, very impressed. Especially, I was looking at 40 to 50 people there. Here they had close to 500 people. It was a sellout. It was fantastic. I knew some of the speakers. I went as a columnist. There's some great speakers. And we'll talk a little bit in a minute here about the one that impressed me the most. How about you, Ken?
I think it's always a good opportunity to just get some new ideas in your head because you need to get that outside intelligence to kind of fuel you forward and think differently. So this was a lot of fun. It was a great opportunity to learn. And I think we both agreed the best session we had the whole day, it was the closing keynote. It was a man named John Levy, who is all into sales behavior. And I thought he was just brilliant. He does this thing on his own. I think he calls them influencer dinners, where he will invite about a dozen people to his home in New York. They don't necessarily know each other. Anyone who attends, they are only allowed to say their first name. They're not allowed to say their last name, not allowed to have their occupation. Everyone who goes there understands, yes, it is a dinner, but the group will actually be making dinner, eating dinner together, and then actually cleaning it up. The idea being that you're putting all these interesting people who are from the world of academics, sports, Hollywood, all these interesting people together, and they just have a chance to interact and relate to one another and learn from each other. And it's not so much of a pressure-filled situation where if you're like, hey, I'm going to introduce you to a Hollywood star, maybe you start to tense up, or you wouldn't think to put the professional athlete with the poet. But they might have a lot in common. So I thought that was just a really interesting idea.
I agree. And then the biggest item, my takeaway was that everyone respected each other because it was more or less a peer group. There was no one asking for autographs and all this, should I say, the famous aspect of it and so on, because there were athletes there and so on too. And I was impressed with that. They were all down-to-earth type people. Collaboration was fantastic. They have friends now. They can network, in the future. They're looking at new opportunities, potentially even investment possibilities in the future. But there was a book that he based this on because Mr. Levy is, I believe, a scientist.
Sure.
He's got a science background, PhD, I would assume. And the book was by Grant. I don't remember the first name, but it was called Give and Take. And There's 3 different types of personalities of people that are either givers and takers, and there's the ultimate giver. And you're going to have to look that up yourselves, but I've read that book, part of it, but it rejuvenated me in how to look at my clients and how I deal with people and so on. And it's very interesting that you could actually categorize the situation. And I don't want to say judge, but in a way, colors do show. And the success of that person came out of those 3 categories. So once again, Give and Take, supposed to be a fantastic book. My game plan is to pass it on because my kids are always, I believe, are givers in employment, and they might have to start reconsidering modifying that behavior.
And I think in the big picture, some of that last point you made, it really can relate to if you're going to a conference, because you need to think about, well, what is your mindset? Are you going there thinking like, well, I'm like a celebrity. I'm not going to talk to someone who doesn't seem like they're me. It can be really good to just go with an open mind, to meet people, to talk to them. Everyone's on the same level. You're exchanging ideas. You're thinking about how do you help someone. rather than just saying, well, how does this person help me? Or if I can't see a direct way that they can help me, why should I talk to them? But we know that there's a deeper level of meaning and connection that can happen where really the ideas can really flow, the connections can be made. I know from those influencer dinners, they have a private online community. So the people continue to kind of realize, not just from their dinner, but from the other dinners, there's cool people out there who you can pick their brain and you can learn from. And that's just the basics of good networking.
Well, let's just talk a little bit about the sessions. They were only 45 minutes to an hour. Building a community of hundreds of thousands of communities, co-founder of Reddit. Building teams that help you build your business. Impacting key operations with practical technology. And of course, Microsoft was the sponsor. There was technology there. There were demonstrations there out in the hallway. It was at the Regis. Was it St. Regis? Or
Actually, the Ritz-Carlton.
Or the Ritz-Carlton, first class, everything. The funny thing about it was everybody came dressed to the max. Very professional. Even though it was casual, I didn't see anyone without a sport coat and males.
And for those who don't know, in South Florida, sometimes, because it's a little warmer, it gets a little more casual than perhaps in Atlanta or Chicago. So yeah, you're right. People knew there was a level of expectation.
And the other thing was the age, the demographics, and the profile. These were people that were all under 50, I believe. I was older than that. However, I saw that the energy was fantastic.
Yeah, that's why I think it's so valuable to go to these types of events, because you do feed off the crowd, you feed off the new ideas. It's nice, too, if you're in a room full of people, too, who are interested in getting things done and growing. A lot of people want to improve their businesses, improve their bottom lines, but when it comes to the actual doing it, it doesn't always happen. Sometimes when I'm giving a speech at a conference, I'll ask somebody, okay, what's something new that you've learned that you can implement in the next 90 days? And a lot of people like to say that they are part of innovative organizations, and I'll gently say to them, well, please tell me about your latest innovation. And they kind of hem and haw, and it's like, well, if you're not learning new stuff, you're not going to be able to use new ideas in the marketplace. So I think it's important to attend these things.
Well, Microsoft got up there with a few people. I believe their global product manager or director. What's hot, what's happening, what's to come. They were talking about security and privacy and the new software and the new devices that are coming out by Microsoft and their supply chain. It was pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, I thought it was.
I enjoyed it. It was worthwhile. And the other item was, I believe it was only 5 hours, right? 45 hours.
Yes.
You were there early in the morning, you're out by noon. They had a box lunch if you'd like, and you're out the door.
And that's a good thing, too, I think, with a lot of organizations. You want to honor people's time because everyone's busy. And sometimes if something is like a full day or a couple days, it is harder to go to versus saying, hey, it's roughly a half day. It's a little bit of travel time worth attending, worth learning. You got to sharpen the sword. Rock, we're going to get to the third event you went to in just a second, but I guess some people may still be on the fence about whether they really need to pursue this type of education, these types of events. Why is it so important for someone in the printing industry to get out of the office and go somewhere and learn?
Well, that's the reason why I do it. And I've been doing it for many, many years, not only for others, for myself, and also for my clients. It always seems like I need to upgrade their attitude about what's happening 10 years from now. When I go to trade shows, I'm always asking the big companies, the big suppliers, what's to come 5 years from now, 10 years from now in printing. Okay, we could talk about digital, we could talk about screen printing. What shocked me at a recent trade show is some of the larger companies are starting to look back at screen printing due to environmental durability. And that's amazing to me because there's always been some type of out of favor for screen printing and its processes and so on. And it's all going to be digital. Well, digital's good in certain things, but not good for long-term big brand exposure such as signage, plastic signage, and customized colors and so on. So it's amazing to me that leadership, entrepreneurs aren't looking at the next 5 to 10 years. And if they are looking at basically an estate plan or an exit plan or a succession plan, either way, you need to improve your bottom line. And when it comes down to emotionally withdrawing from a company, you have to have a plan. And with the plan, you have to be prepared to invest in this adjacent strategy. Because most people are just thinking about the top line and sales. In a mature market, that's a commodity. You need to start looking at how to improve the bottom line, and that could either be through sales or it could be through divesting versus investing. And so there's a lot of different strategies, but the bottom line here is getting out there, finding out what's going on, because there's so many different types of tools that are available today that are affordable and could really affect not only the strategies and the solutions, but the results of the bottom line of your business.
Now, it's something I've believed in for a long time. Tell me a little bit about the third event that you went to recently.
Very exciting. It's called the AWA Mergers and Acquisitions Executive Forum 2016. It's an annual event in Chicago. It's very, very exclusive for people that are involved with mergers and acquisitions, but it's specifically for labels, packaging, coding, and the converting industry. It's all about research. It's all about what's happening in the industry, innovative packaging, what's coming down the road, what they're seeing today, what it takes to be innovative. A lot of packaging companies are consolidating. The big guys are getting even bigger. However, the innovation isn't there. So the smaller niche players are becoming more and more innovative on their packaging. And they call it peer-to-peer supply chain, where they're getting involved with the end user and they're becoming sole source, or at least have some type of an exclusive relationship with the suppliers and printers. It's very, very exciting. How about current trends? And the big trend right now is not, of course, consolidation, but not enough sellers in the marketplace. Baby boomers are holding on to their businesses, some too long, some not investing in their futures, and so on. And majority of the participants are private equity groups that are looking for potential sellers. So they're always looking for the opportunity to invest. And printing, labeling, and packaging is in favor. We talk about valuations, the multiples on these valuations, how to maximize them, and so on, deals that win. And then I spoke about the entrepreneurs in our industry that are basically either selling or not selling, and why. And I gave at least 10 examples of transactions that have happened in the last 12 months that I've been involved with. So it's very exciting. We only had about 50 delegates from 7 different countries, all looking for growth strategies. So that's what's exciting. What really confuses me, though, is why aren't sellers coming to these special executive forums to really understand what's happening to the marketplace and potentially how to look at either growing their business, selling their business, strategic aligning with another source because of an eventual exit or eventual estate plan or whatever the owner decides to do. So I'm hoping that we could help the entrepreneur start looking at a strategic plan of some sort once they decide whether they're a seller or a buyer. And eventually they're going to have to make a decision on which way they're going to go. And of course, LaManna Alliance could help them do that.
Well, thank you so much for all those reports, Rock. I think it is great for people to get that type of information. Speaking of information, I want to remind everyone that this podcast is brought to you by our friends at Label and Narrow Web. Tremendous resource they have over at their website, labelandnarrowweb.com. When you go to that website, you can subscribe to Label and Narrow Web magazine and their breaking news e-newsletter. Now, the cool thing is, both of these resources are free. Doesn't cost you anything. So head over to that website, sign up now. Great tools that are available. And of course, one of the people who is featured by Label and Narrow Web magazine, Mr. Rock LaManna. And I understand you have your monthly column with them.
Yes, the bottom line is a column that we write to the audience, which is a very high percentage, are business owners in the Flexo digital printing label area.
Tremendous resource for you. I encourage you to check it out. Now it is time for our popular feature where we take your questions and we answer them. This month's question. Now, I want to remind people, we understand your business can be a sensitive subject, so we always change the name of the person who gives the question. So this month, we're going to do NFL quarterback Tom Brady. Tom, his season ended a little while ago, so he has some time. So he sent us this question. As a baby boomer, I know that aggressive competition is coming. What should I do next? What do you think, Rock?
Well, there's always three questions I ask the person. The baby boomer that comes to me, I'll ask them three things. Number one, are you a buyer? Are you an investor? Are you a seller? Or are you going to divest? Or are you undecided? And majority of the time, the first call is, I'm undecided. So in the meantime, we start collecting data. It all starts with the data. It could be the valuations, and we start talking about quantitative information where we can measure, such as RMA, which is the Risk Management Association, basically identifies and profiles companies, whether they are high, low, or medium in the industry. A lot of people don't understand that.
And you were saying it's almost like a high school or a college student's GPA.
Yes, it is. So if you're a 4.0 and you come in at a 3.0, you're a B player. If you're a 2.0, you're a C player, and there's companies that have failed.
And I would imagine that sometimes people think, like students do, that their grades are a little higher than they actually are.
Yeah, expectations are always high because after 30, 40 years of a baby boomer owning a business, they might not have the confidence to make a huge decision such as an exit or pass it on to the children. Rock, how do I do it? Or, you know what, I've decided I'm going to stick around and I'm going to spend another 5 years of putting this together. So after we put the game plan together and there's a commitment to making that game plan, then we start looking at accountability, we start looking at the organization, we start looking at the people that are involved, and then basically we put a plan together, and then we put a timeline on it where we look at the roles, the accountability, the responsibility, and the execution. So there's always a strategy for solutions, but basically it's the owner that really makes the difference on results.
Very good. Good advice for Mr. Tom Brady. Let's say you would like to send us your question. Rock, what should they do in terms of emailing that in?
Look up Rock at rocklamanna.com. There will be a subscription opportunity on my blog. Send that question in and just basically say it's towards the podcast, and we'll get back to you.
Very good. And let's say people want to learn more about you and the LaManna Alliance. What should they do?
Once again, we could contact Rock at rocklamanna.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Skype. I mean, people contact me through Skype. You could call me personally, 561-543-2323, or email me at rock@rocklamanna.com.
And if you want to get in touch with me, I'm Ken Okel. I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but I'm a former broadcaster. I do a lot of presentations on leadership and productivity. Find out more about me, go to my website, kenokel.com. That's KENOKEL.com. And of course, as we continue to have more episodes of this podcast, you may want to do the binge listen. So for that, an easy thing to do, subscribe on iTunes. You will never miss an episode. You can listen to us as you're on the go. So I think that's all the time we have for now. Rock, thank you so much for joining me today.
See you in the marketplace.
All right. Take care, everyone.
This is the Prince's Edge with Rock LaManna. Thanks Thanks for listening.